We've heard all about Pragmata being a brand new IP, and one that already sold 1 million copies, a mind-bending achievement for a new franchise. We already know its mechanics and gameplay are unique enough to stand out, and that its story and cast are quite memorable parts of the experience that it brings to the table. On their own, all of these should be factors when examining why a game has millions of players addicted to what it has to offer. But in a world where a lot of big releases demand a lot of time and patience from their players, we think Pragmata's focus on a tight, filler-free experience deserves a look. Is it a facet of the experience that has been a refreshing change of pace for gamers who may not have the time that most modern releases ask of them? Has it been designed to refresh its players with its brevity rather than drain them with needless tedium? We're going to answer those questions as we examine how Pragmata's appeal could be psychological, giving it an edge long before you start a playthrough and join Hugh and Diana on their trip through the Cradle. So let's get right into it. The burden of expectations. It's a good idea to look at a few aspects of modern blockbusters before we get into our examination of why Pragmata has bucked the trends that they bring. They bring design habits that seem to want to pad out games with bloated content maps and repetitive progression loops that often feel like they're there to just inflate a game's runtime. It's an effective way to improve a game's shelf life, no arguments there, but they also come with the expectation that you should main the game in question for weeks on end. Unless you're playing games for a living, that makes playing through these titles a sort of daily habit that you then balance against everything else going on in your life. It's quite easy for a great game to feel like a chore once the novelty wears off, and you're forced to sit through hours of content before you get to roll the credits and close out the loop on a title that you were enjoying when you first picked it up. Value often becomes synonymous with volume, and while that has worked in many cases, it's proven ineffective in titles that simply don't have enough meat on them to keep players hooked. Pragmata has now come along to show that games don't need to be big in scale, but can be big in scope with a core experience that's just cleaner and tighter. The absence of bloat becomes a calling card in such cases, and Pragmata brings quite an impressive one. We'd argue that the gaming industry as a whole has created the very conditions that are allowing Pragmata to thrive in the days since its release. It might be a shorter experience than its peers, but that doesn't at all mean that it's light on all of the elements that make a modern blockbuster appealing. It's substantial without being exhausting, the gameplay loop and character-driven narrative working in tandem to have you invested in the adventure. It's polished and clean, with enough reason to go off the beaten track while it isn't overstuffed. Your path to progress in both the story and gameplay is focused, paced with intent to make everything you do feel like a natural extension of its systems. You're nudged along to new discoveries without the need to forget about the main story, but you're never obligated to engage with side content in a manner that can often feel forced in other titles. These sentiments have been common factors in the discourse about the game, showcasing that a formula that goes for spectacle and substance without bloat has all the potential to succeed as another title that's perhaps a bit longer with more to do in the world it presents. But as a major release that doesn't need players to clear their calendars for a few weeks, Pragmata is refreshingly free of the mental load that usually comes with the big release. But how does a game with a short runtime manage to keep its players coming back for more?
Ocean breeze does a number on the pain, but still.
The breeze in the paint?
It'll make sense when you see it. You know, back on Earth.
Fast and focused. Well, that's quite easy to answer. Pragmata stands out thanks to its cool approach to combat, and it isn't an easy game to pick up right off the bat. We've talked about how it can be a title that lets you show off your PS5 Pro, thanks to the RE Engine's penchant for incredible visuals and performance. But that won't matter if you're getting absolutely wrecked by the Cradle's robot legions, now would it? Pragmata's a title that you're going to want to learn quite well if you want to be good at it. We wouldn't say that it strays too far into the get good territory, but managing enemy attacks while you try to sneak past their defenses with Diana's hacks before you get to dish out some serious damage with Hugh's guns isn't a walk in the park. There's an urgency to its combat that translates to an urgency to get into the groove of things sooner rather than later. But once you do, it's a game that you can finish with relative ease. It's also a game that lets you tailor things to suit your playstyle, providing the scope to let you pad out Hugh and Diana's loadouts with things that you like to use out in the field. Get a build going and you're suddenly turning the tables against robots that had you on the back foot a while ago. It's approachable without being too easy, and there's a certain satisfaction you get from making progress in it, a sentiment that's reflected in user-generated reviews as well as critical insights into the gameplay loop here. Now, aside from approachability, there's also the temptation to just keep going. The just another hour lie that we've trained ourselves to believe becomes a regular occurrence during your time with Pragmata. Not because you need to grind out upgrades or levels, no, but because you're genuinely just having a blast with its combat and story, which is great. It's a different sort of addiction that doesn't have daily things to do in-game for obligatory rewards, or a battle pass that quickly becomes akin to a treadmill that you don't want to risk stepping away from. It's a game whose hooks encourages curiosity, and choosing to stay in the cradle for a while longer than you originally intended is honestly just a natural extension of enjoying a game that gives it to you straight, and expects you to just have a blast with it in return. It's refreshing. It's decidedly old school in its approach, letting its quality and the need to continue playing because you want to become factors that keep you immersed in the experience, just hanging out in the shelter for far longer than you might have in a game that didn't place a similar emphasis on natural continuation. We believe that it's what makes Pragmata a game that could be the beginning of a new approach to game design, in a landscape where gamers are increasingly time sensitive and discerning about the quality of their purchases.
You're going down. It's on now. Take this.
A refreshing change from stagnancy. Pragmata's ability to keep its players hooked by just simply doing what it does best deserves attention, not just because it caters to players who want to have a good time without having to spend hours on end in a game. Rather, it has them doing that because they actually want to. For a modern player base that's short on time and with a limited attention span, it's a game that feels premium while also positioning itself as less demanding. Its success since launch is an indicator that there might be more to its addictive potential than just a focused story and some tight gameplay. By daring to be complete, polished, and most importantly, finite, Pragmata has demonstrated that there's a hunger for games that resonate with players by meeting their expectations while limiting what's expected of them. You're still expected to learn the ins and the outs of its combat loop, of course, but you don't have to spend a chunk of your time grinding out upgrades once you do. You're more than welcome to just blaze a path through the story if that's what you're interested in, but its side content is compelling enough on its own to get you making detours from time to time. It's a game that has doubled down on a simple fact. Players don't just expect more content in the game, but want more rhythm from the ones that they're actually playing. In a world where many games can feel like they're a full-time job, Pragmata has its players hooked because it doesn't feel like work, not at all. It's a title that's the perfect way to cap off a long day, and is equally great for a quick session when you decide to take a break from your day job. It's impossible to put down because it's the perfect distraction, and one that can hold your attention with content that's meaningful and executed well. And that is perhaps its biggest strength. Time will of course tell if its potential turns out to be a transformative enough one to bring more games like it, but until then, the Cradle is going to be a place that keeps us all coming back for more for a while yet. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.